So I recently had a question in my Bible study that said, with what or whom has God entrusted you, and how can you be faithful to carry out that trust? And the discussion that we had in the Bible study was all the things that you would think about. But I had this idea and these moments with the Lord where I was like, oh man, I've been entrusted with something different than what we're talking about. And I think it's important for us to discuss.
All right, let's get into that. Before we jump into today's show, I wanted to ask you to check out our website, brand new website, marriagebydesignpodcast.com. That's marriagebydesignpodcast.com. All of our episodes are available there on that website. Love to have you pop over there, follow us there, and check it out.
If you have a topic that you're wanting more information on or you have questions about, you can search on our website by topic, which is a really great feature.
That's right. And more than anything, guys, please share this with someone that would find it meaningful for them. Without any more delay, let's get to the show. Hey, everybody. I'm Nathan Warnock.
I'm Andrea Warnock, and you have joined us for the Marriage by Design podcast, a time where we get to talk to you about God's design for marriage, what the Bible has to say about that, and how we live that out practically. And so today we're talking about this question that we talked about in the opening, which is, with what or whom has God entrusted you, and how can you be faithful to carry out that trust?
It's great. So you're talking about like things God's entrusted us with, like our marriage and our kids and our finances and our jobs.
No, we're actually not talking about that today. The answer is not my marriage. So the answer that you'd expect is all those kinds of things, my finances, all that kind of thing. But and those are all great answers. Right. All the things that we have in life are things that the Lord is entrusting us with to steward well and to use for his glory.
That's right.
So, of course, those are all right answers and great answers. But, and if we're not stewarding those well, we should be bringing those into submission to the Lord.
Right, but you're saying that what struck you as you were contemplating this question of things with which God's entrusted you was something perhaps deeper than those.
I don't know if it's
answers.
deeper. It was just different. And something that I wanted to discuss on the podcast. So I felt like God had said, okay, the answer for you, Andrea, is I'm entrusting you and with knowledge and wisdom.
Ooh.
And how are you stewarding that and using that for my glory?
Okay.
And so let's talk about first what is wisdom and knowledge.
So you're saying that what struck you is that the Lord was saying, hey, yes, I've entrusted you with a family. Yes, I've entrusted you with a husband. Yes, I've entrusted you with children. But
the predecessor to that.
What I have really entrusted you with is wisdom and knowledge, and it's our responsibility to figure out what are we going to do with that wisdom and with that knowledge.
Right. Kind of those being the predecessor to the people and things that God gives us to steward as well, because he gives us such clear instructions in his word, which are wisdom and knowledge of how to live out the Christian life. And if this is, I guess spoiler, whatever. If we're ignoring those things and trying to do life in our own strength and trying to live out maybe the world's idea of a good life or the world's idea of happiness and all that kind of thing, that's rejecting God's truth, God's wisdom, and his knowledge, which he has entrusted us with for something that's not truth.
Yeah, and in a sense, then I assume what struck you as you were thinking about that is we're going to be held accountable for that.
Totally.
So in the same way that I'll be held accountable if I don't steward my marriage well, or if I don't raise my children well, I'm going to be held accountable for the wisdom and knowledge with which we receive. That's great. So
which the precursor to that is every person throughout humanity is held accountable for what they did with the knowledge of Christ.
That's right.
And whether we choose salvation not just in a head knowledge way, but with choosing that gift of salvation from the Lord in a heart knowledge, we talk about head knowledge, heart knowledge, whatever. It's hard to describe, but living that out, everybody in all of humanity is accountable for that. And then there's more beyond that once we choose the way of the Lord.
You're right.
So
you're right. That's good. Good. So what is wisdom? We'll start by defining those terms.
So the definition of wisdom is the ability to discern or judge what is true, right, or lasting.
Okay.
And we know as Christians, anything that is true is the Lord, and right. And the only thing that's lasting are things of the Lord. And wisdom is knowing those things or being able to discern them. Yeah, the ability to discern those. Right, discern or judge. And then knowledge is defined as information gained through experience, reasoning, or acquaintance. Okay. So knowledge can exist without wisdom, but not vice versa. Wisdom cannot exist without knowledge. So a really great example of what is wisdom and knowledge is this idea that, okay, knowledge is, I know a tomato is a fruit, right? Wisdom is knowing not to put a tomato in a fruit salad. It's good. So if you think about it like that, we can know things in our head, but we cannot utilize that knowledge in the proper way so utilizing the knowledge in the proper way is wisdom. Yeah, and I would say both of these to just bring this as I will from time to time during our discussion, because this discussion is not limited to marriage, right? No, absolutely not. Today is not limited to marriage. So when I want to insert myself and just talk about this, because I think both of these knowledge and wisdom are seriously lacking in modern marriages, and they show up in different ways. I genuinely think there are a lot of people, even Christian people, that just simply do not know God's design for marriage. Mm-hmm. I just don't think they know. Yeah, that it's funny. Meant to be a picture of God's relationship with His church, and we know that because we teach that at conferences and to couples and all that, and every time you get a significant number of people that have walked with the Lord for a long time that are like, I really wish I'd have known this earlier in my marriage because it would have changed what I thought about marriage. Which is funny because just earlier today I was reflecting on what did I know, and that was a long time ago, so it's hard to tell. But what did I know about marriage in regards to the Bible before I got married or in early marriage? And I definitely lacked some knowledge. Sure. But I also lacked the wisdom to seek out that knowledge in the Word. Yeah. And that was my bad because the Lord's given it to me in the Bible, and I knew where to find God's instructions for life, but I didn't didn't apply that, in my own life and look to the Word and look to the Lord too. Yep. So I lacked the wisdom to seek out the knowledge of the Lord. Yeah, and I would just add on to that and say, in the same way that knowledge is lacking in marriages today, wisdom is lacking in marriages today. And what that looks like is, I know I'm supposed to live sacrificially with my spouse, with my wife. I know I'm supposed to sacrifice for my wife. But if she would just do this, this, and this, then I would do that. That's not wisdom, because you know the truth. You're just simply refusing to put it into practice in your life. That tomato salad, the fruit salad. You definitely want tomatoes in your tomato salad. Right. The example you used earlier of knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit.
wisdom is not putting a tomato in a fruit salad. It's such a good example. The succinct way of saying that is wisdom is knowledge applied.
Yeah.
Right? We can know a lot of stuff. Wisdom is applying that stuff to our lives. I can know a whole bunch.
Skipping ahead to my very last point. But,
sorry,
but that's okay.
Sorry, I mean, we can know a lot about marriage, but it will seriously hurt you, and it will seriously hurt my marriage if I do not apply those things that I know about marriage to our marriage.
Yep, that's exactly the point of all this. Like, it's exactly the point. God entrusts us with knowledge and wisdom and truth. But what point? I mean, what good is it if we have it all, but we just are stuffed with it,
right?
But we don't exercise it out.
All right. So this idea of wisdom and knowledge, where are those found biblically?
Yeah. So these are spiritual. So there's a couple things with these. These are just naturally given by the Lord. Of course, knowledge can be found in the Word. So we have a gift in that we have the living Word, the complete living Word.
She was just holding up the Bible.
Oh yeah, you can't see that. Oh, there we go.
Like, it's not like a Curious George book or Bernstein Bears. It was the Bible.
We have the complete living Word, and so that's a gift to us. And of course, knowledge can be found there.
100%.
It originates from the Lord. All truth originates from the Lord, because He is truth. So, but they're also spiritual gifts. So God can lump an extra amount of knowledge and wisdom on to people as a gift.
Yep.
And so we're all gifted with wisdom and knowledge, but then some people have extras of it just as a spiritual gifting, just like prophecies can be a spiritual gifting, speaking in tongues, teaching, right? There's lots of spiritual gifts, but that can be a spiritual gift too. So
sarcasm.
Like we can see in sarcasm is not a spiritual gift. Is that what you just said?
Oh, sorry about that.
We can see in James 1:5, it says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. So again, it's something that wisdom is something that God will give freely to anyone.
Yeah.
But then we can also see in 1 Corinthians 12:8. So 1 Corinthians 12 is talking about spiritual gifts, which some things are given to some people that aren't given to others, or more is given to some people than others. Anyway, 12:8 says, for to one is given through the Spirit the utterance of wisdom, and to another the utterance of knowledge, according to the same Spirit. And again, it goes on. Some people have the gift of faith, which of course we know is not withheld from everyone. Faith is given as a gift to all believers, but then there's an extra like lumping of faith that's given to some. So anyway, It says wisdom and knowledge can be a spiritual gift too, that some people just have in abundance.
It's great.
So the Lord has offered us access to knowledge and wisdom, through His Word, through salvation. He is the truth, and that's how we access those. And then He also gives divine wisdom in translating that knowledge to true relationship and salvation by applying His truths to our lives. Yeah,
and again, that's that knowledge that we get from the Bible of who God is and applying it to our lives. So just a side encouragement. As you study the Bible, and as a Christian, I pray that you do spend time studying the Bible, even if it's just reading a chapter or two and spending a bit of time in prayer every day. You will learn things about God. So when I have the privilege of leading people in Bible study, we always tell people I want them to focus on two things. The first one is, what do we learn about God through the passage that we just read, about who He is, about what He desires, about
because Scripture points to God, not to us.
Right.
Not what are you learning about yourself.
Right. So the first question is, what do we learn about God from this passage? That's the knowledge piece.
Yep.
And then secondarily, how do we apply what we learned about God to our lives right now? That's the wisdom piece.
Yep.
So there's knowledge and wisdom, and if we can study the Bible with that idea in mind, man, it can be really profitable time of study.
Yep. James 1:17 says, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. So
that's great.
Every good gift, like knowledge and wisdom, is from the Lord.
That's great.
So,
that's great. So why right, do this?
Why should I steward these well? And what does that look like? So we need to be here. We need to be doers of the word, not just hearers only. Again, in James 1:22-27 says, but be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. Again, I'm going to read that. But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves.
Right.
We can hear the word and deceive ourselves into thinking we don't need to do it.
Yeah, because there's always an excuse,
right?
Right? There's always a reason.
Right.
If Andrea would treat me better, then I would sacrifice for her. If Nathan would not be such a bonehead, then I would do these things I know I'm supposed to do. Like, that's the deceiving part.
Yep. The deceiving yourselves part is so important because our flesh wants to do that all the time.
That's exactly right.
For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and at once forgets what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing. How long? What did I say? Through 27?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that's through 27.
That's great.
Oh, no, it's not. If anyone thinks he is religious, this is the important part too, if anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. Being hearers is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unstained from the world.
That's great.
It's useless to be hearers, and there's so often in my own life that I have been given the gift of knowledge on something. I have been given the gift of wisdom on something. And I just, okay, that's nice, but I have the excuse, or I just don't want to put the effort in, or whatever that is. And I'm not stewarding that gift that God has given me well for the glory of God.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
We're privileged to have the Bible. We're privileged to live in a modern day where we can access so much information about the Lord and about the things of the Lord and wisdom. And there is so much privilege living in the times that we do, but there's also so much distraction.
Yeah. Can I just insert something here that strikes me as we're talking about this? There are two things that are really dangerous right now going on in Christian communities, particularly in the West, particularly in the United States. The first one is a whole bunch of people that have a lot of knowledge and no wisdom, right? And that's what you're talking about right now. People that know a lot of stuff, they've studied the Bible, it's all very academic. We all really understand what the Bible says. We can quote the verse, we can go to the chapters, all those kinds of things, but we're not spending any time making sure that we are doers of the word. So we have a lot of hearers of the word, but that doesn't translate into doers of the word. Yep. That's a really dangerous position for people to be in. Because if you go to Matthew 7:23, there's this really terrifying verse where Jesus is talking about how there will come a time at the judgment when people will come to him and say, Lord, Lord,
I did miracles in your name.
Desiring to get into heaven and saying, I did all of these signs and wonders in your name. And Jesus, I imagine through tears, is going to say, depart from me, you sinner, because I never knew you. Because there was a lot of knowledge going on, but that knowledge was not being applied. Particularly with regards to who God is and what our responsibility is from a submission standpoint before him.
Yeah, it's the Bible talks about that even Satan knows Jesus. Right. He knows salvation. He knows a lot of things about the Bible, and he uses it against the Lord.
Right.
but
it's not applied.
But it's not applied, and he doesn't
believe against it.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Believe it and do it.
Yeah, that's right. But let me say, because I just want to put this in there too. I am concerned though that we also in this postmodern age have a whole bunch of people who are trying to exercise wisdom with no underlying knowledge. Let me give you a really good example of this. The Bible talks throughout about love. We hear about love. We know God is love. We know God loves us. We know for God so loved the world. We know all of these things about God and love. So the wisdom in that would suggest something like love is love. It doesn't matter if you're a man and you love a man. It doesn't matter if you're a woman and you love a woman. It doesn't matter if you're a man and you love a dog. It doesn't matter because love is love and God is love. That is wisdom. But because there is not any underlying true knowledge upon which that wisdom is based, it's actually leading people astray. They think they're exercising wisdom, but in fact they are exercising heresy because there is no underlying knowledge. So it's not just that it always is, hey, you have a bunch of knowledge but no wisdom. I think there are a lot of good-meaning people that are trying to practice wisdom, but they either have an agenda or they haven't honestly taken the time to gain the underlying knowledge. And you have to have both.
Yep.
Like wisdom has to come from knowledge, but true wisdom must come from true knowledge.
Yep. No, I totally agree. That's a great point. Okay, so God entrusts us with his wisdom and knowledge.
Yep.
How do we apply that? Well, James talks about we need to be doers. It's not negotiable. We just need to be doers, not only hearers of the word, and we have to be truth seekers. So seek out God's truth rather than trying to avoid it, and seek out to do what God has laid out as his truth and his knowledge.
Yeah, and let me just because I know you're going to transition this into marriage a little bit here, which is going to be great. But I just want to say, go read the first 4 chapters of Romans, if you have a moment, because Andrea's here saying, hey, look, we've been given the Bible. We have a privilege in that we have the Bible. And you may be listening to this going, well, I haven't really spent much time reading the Bible, to which I would respond and say, right, but you have access to it. Yep. So in Romans, Paul starts by addressing the Gentiles in Rome, which means the non-Jews. And he's telling them, hey, you don't have any excuse for rebelling against God because nature around you cries out for a creator. So you should have known, even as a Gentile, that there was a God. Mm-hmm. But then he gets to the Jews, and he blasts the Jews because he says, look unlike these Gentiles who should have recognized it in nature around them, you had the written word, and yet even with the written word, you chose to rebel against God. That's the position that we're all in, gang.
Yeah,
like
and
we have the written word, and we have creation around us that cries out for a creator.
Yeah, and
We've got no excuse.
There's not an excuse. You're not going to get the excuse of, oh, well, I didn't read that part of the Bible. You're still responsible for that because you had it and you just chose not to. Just like with the law, you don't get to say if you get pulled over, oh, I didn't know that was a law. You're still responsible for it because you have access to know what it is. You're just choosing not to access the truth. Mm-hmm. So
you're right.
It's not an excuse. So in marriage, what does this look like? Well, God has entrusted us with wisdom and knowledge, and we have to apply it to our marriage. It means then that we're not left with an excuse. We have to carry out what God is asking of us, which means to be sacrificing our will all the time for the sake of the Lord and his glory. So when you think you have an excuse for really anything, when you think you have an excuse for anything that goes against the word, you don't.
Right.
We have to trust that the Lord is good. We have to trust that his plan is the right thing, and to carry out the plan, which is that our marriage should be a reflection of his relationship with us, and he pursues us always. It doesn't matter how many times we fail. He pursues us. He loves us. He desires deeper relationship with us all the time. There's nothing that we can do to separate us from the love of God. There's nothing that we can say or whatever that God's going to say, that's enough. I'm walking away. And we know that the Lord hates divorce. We know that was never his plan from the beginning. And so if you're saying, I'm just so unhappy, or this guy is just such a blockhead, or this woman just won't respect me, whatever it is, there's just not an excuse.
Period.
And we have to apply the knowledge, ask the Lord, and ask the Lord for the wisdom, and ask the Lord for the strength. And he says he will give us wisdom and knowledge freely. How do I handle this? Give me the strength to bring this to you. Give me the strength for one more day of not being loved well, and choose to walk out our faith in marriage, in parenting, in whatever, everything that we've been entrusted with, to the glory of the Lord, not for our own selfish ambition.
Yep. It's great.
So
that's good, babe. Real good.
That was my what I feel like the Lord has entrusted me with, that I just cannot get fat on. Get fat on knowledge or on scripture, but just not, and then not exercise that out and apply it. I just can't. I'm so convicted every day, because I fail every day, in that the flesh has to be cut off, So
that's good. That's good.
Thanks for listening.
Good. You bet. Hey, thanks so much for bringing that. I appreciate you leading us in that. I hope there was something that you took away from this. I would love to hear from you. Do you feel like you excel more in the knowledge standpoint? Are you more comfortable in the wisdom piece of this? Are there things disciplines you've put in your life that help you translate the knowledge from knowledge to wisdom? We'd love to hear from you. If you can, leave a comment down in the comments section below. You're welcome to leave us a comment either on Instagram or Facebook. We check those, always get back to everyone on those comments. Or you can always email us, marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will be back at you in just 1 week with another episode of the Marriage by Design podcast. Until then, remember, God is for your marriage.
Thanks so much for listening. We just wanted to say, if you have a comment, a question, something that you're struggling with, or need prayer, please reach out to us. You can get a hold of us by emailing marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com, or of course you can comment on any of our social media and we will get back to you. But if you have something private, feel free to email us. We're happy to personally respond to you.
That's right. And we do respond to every comment that we receive, either through our website, through YouTube, through our social medias, which leads me to, feel free to pop over to our website, marriagebydesignpodcast.com. You can leave comments on any of our videos through that site. We would love to be able to connect with you, but please don't hesitate to reach out. Even if you just need prayer, you need someone to hear what you're going through, we're here for the Marriage by Design community, so feel free to reach out anytime. Until then, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you next time.